Happy Friday and welcome to the Brigitte Bartley Show, live in the studio today in Greenville, South Carolina with Jeffery Combs, straight from Stockton, California. Before we get started with our guest Jeffery today, I want to give a personal thank you and shout out to Old European Pastries in Greenville, South Carolina, who is actually officially open full-time hours today. Old Europe Pastries, they have European pastries, locally roasted coffee. They will soon have lunch. They will soon have wine. Catering is also available. They have breakfast as well. So be sure to visit them at 716 South Main Street in downtown Greenville. It's located between Odo Izakaya and Husk Greenville. But welcome, Jeffery, to Greenville, South Carolina from California.
My absolute privilege and pleasure to be here with you, Bridget. What an odyssey, what a journey it's been with you for the past 8 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to introduce you to our guest because some people who may not know who Jeffery Combs is. So Jeffery is from Stockton, California. He is a president of Golden Mastermind. He's a best-selling author. He is an internationally recognized speaker. He's also a success, mindset, and business coach. And just to give people a little bit of an idea of how I met you, because a lot of people still don't know this connection. By the way, before we get started, you have a small audience here supporting you, Jeffery. So we have an audience behind us with a client from Knoxville. You have a client here from, well, right here in Greenville, 29. Did you know he won 29 Emmys?
I didn't, but I'm honored
you
to be his coach and friend.
You have a 29 Emmy Award winner TV anchor here watching, as well as you have somebody here from North Carolina.
He looks like a TV anchor, too, doesn't he?
He talks like
He's
a TV anchor.
He's got that look, too. I mean, you can tell that Michael is a TV rock star.
He is. He totally
You see
is.
that woman over there? There's Rhonda Lee. Now, Rhonda is unequivocally one of my top-tier students of all time, not only as a business owner, but in overcoming most challenging addictions, and we'll cover this, is being unorganized and overwhelmed.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about addictions because that was one of the things that you helped me to overcome as well, and just how there are different forms of addictions. But you have coached over 12,000 clients, and I had the honor of being a client of yours since 2013. You and I first connected in 2011. I remember having the phone call with you, sitting in the floor of my closet. I was about to leave my marriage, and in February 2013, I met you for the first time. I came to your event with my 3 children because I was determined to take a different road in life, and invested my last $100 bill with you for a CD set, because at the moment I could see the investment. In the next 6 months, I was committed to hiring you. I sold anything that I could that had value, from handbags, watches, jewelry, and gave you cash in September 2013 in Charleston, South Carolina.
In a white envelope.
Yes. And since 2013, the one-on-one coaching went to numerous events of yours that you host. It's a client-only event that you host in California. Those were all life-changing for me. And, for me at the time, which people who know me now, it may be challenging for them to see me this way, but I was in a space of just depression, guilt, anger, resentment, bitterness, confusion. And through the years of work, through your coaching and your signature events, I'm now at a place of just peace and prosperity, and where things just show up, like the front parking space and opportunities.
And
like
the Maserati we rode in on.
Yes, exactly.
Don't forget the Maserati. That was a very unique sound I got to hear.
It was.
I'll never forget that sound.
So a little side shout out to Greenville Maserati. Yeah, they put us in a car this weekend, and we had fun taking it from 0 to 60 in a very short amount of time. So thank you, Jeffery. So to get right into it, some of the people will ask, how do I? That's such a common question. Like, how did you do it? How do I? How do I? With your clients, what do you find to be the most common challenge for people?
Well, what most people don't understand is how emotionally addicted they are to a set of feelings. So the word addiction, it typically means alcoholism, drug addiction. I mean, that's how most people view it. And then there's all the other sideline addictions of chronic debting, gambling, sex, anorexia, bulimia, and the standard addictions that most people know about. Then there's codependency, then there's underachieving, under-earning, procrastination. So those look physical. But what I specialize is the cause that creates the effect of why you do what you do. Now, I've been in recovery myself for 31 years of no relapses, drug and alcohol, and about another 10 years of codependency. So I assist people to understand why they do what they do, not how do I overcome it. Because if you don't understand cause that creates the effect, the body will run the brain, and then your body will react to the stimulus. I am very skilled at assisting people to understand the cause that creates the effect, how to interrupt a feeling in mid-moment, and then move into a place where you can respond to the stimulus. So now the brain and body become one.
And that was one of the things that you truly helped me with, because I was an addict with my emotional set of feelings. But for me, it went back to childhood. And it was 1 year into my coaching that I realized it was so suppressed. And I know you talk about this with clients and at your events, that we can have events happen in childhood or in life that we suppress, and almost like where it just energetically radiates out. And I remember on that call specifically, your question was, why are you so angry? And I kept saying, I don't know, Jeffrey, I don't know. I didn't know. And you would continually ask me a series of questions, and I realized what I had suppressed. And I remember that phone call that I made to you that Sunday afternoon, and it was just something so suppressed that I didn't even realize that's why I had that anger. But because of that unresolved anger, I was attracting the same relationships over and over and over. So I was an addict as well to passive-aggressive people.
Perpetrators and violators to fulfill a set of feelings
Right.
that keep you emotionally unresolved in anger, hate, and resentment.
So how do you, how do you help people discover what that cause is? Because some people will say, but I had a great childhood.
Well, first of all, they have to hire me. I mean, that's the first situation.
Right.
So when someone hires me, I will walk through a regression with them of their life. And it doesn't take me very long in a very early conversation, because I can tell between the gaps and delays in their communication style. Most Americans, Canadians, Australians, people from England that speak the English language have a lot of gaps and delays in their communication. It means they don't have clarity. So when I ask someone what one of their dreams is, typically the first sound out of their mouth is because it catches them off guard. Mm-hmm. Then their body flexes and flinches. So I assist people to understand why they do what they do, because I'll find the events. It's the events that shape the feelings. I mean, it's not uncommon for one of my clients to tell me they had a great childhood, but within the context of that conversation, I'll find out that they were traumatized by a brother, a sister. I'll find out that they were molested or there was incest in that family. I will find out that they were traumatized by a priest, a nun, or someone in this situation. But their egoic mind, the analytical egoic mind says, I had a good childhood, I'm in denial. Now there's two situations. There's suppressed. So this would be suppressed, and then this is repressed. Suppressed are the mistakes we make over and over and over, and we know we're doing them, but we don't know why we do them. Now the repressed feelings are where my real niche is. Those are the ones that are stuffed, that are buried, that are forgotten, that we continue to act out of unconsciously. Now, once you start to understand cause, now you can localize on why you do what you do. But until you understand cause, your body will keep running your brain, and you'll react to stimulus all the time. Meaning you're pissed off, you're angry, you're overwhelmed, mm-hmm. You're unorganized, undisciplined, underachieve, under-earn. And then Friday comes around and you're so fucking overwhelmed that it's happy hour. Hey, I only drink on the weekends.
That is true. I can relate to that. I can relate. So you talk about suppressed and repressed, but then there's also the difference of self-esteem and self-confidence. Two
complete distinctions. That's why you can be a rock star entrepreneur or mm-hmm. athlete, and that's why you can be a great employee, and that's confidence, because confidence requires competition, victories, losses. It requires conflict. It requires rewards, and this is why people will go to the wall to win a reward, mm-hmm. to meet a founder, an owner, or someone of influence or affluence, or they'll do it, babies cry for it, men die for it, mm-hmm. recognition. But men will give their lives up, men and women will stand the gaff for a very low level of energy called courage for a medal of honor. And that's valor. But valor is not self-esteem, because we can rise to the occasion. We can rise to the occasion in confidence and training and repetition and experience. But self-esteem is when you're sitting at home by yourself and that medal doesn't mean anything anymore, or that bank account has no meaning because you're destitute emotionally and your relationships are absolutely in the toilet. But hey, I've got a lot of medals and trophies and I'm wealthy. Or it's the other way around. You got nothing. And see, you don't have to have anything to have self-esteem. Self-esteem is esteem. It means regard for self. It has no perpetuation. It has its own energy. It's not driven by anything. It doesn't seek rewards or recognition and does not require love because self-esteem is love. Now, outside love of esteem can enhance esteem, but esteem is not dependent upon anything except self. Now, that makes a major contradiction through religions and cultures because self is selfishness. But if you now we can move into the whole another 4 or 5 hours about God, religion, selfishness, but in the simplification of it, self is I am good enough. I don't require any explanation, any reward, recognition to be. It's a be state of I am enough.
Right.
So in that state, you can separate the past regret or the future anxiety and be here right now. So that right now you can focus on a result, a solution. You can focus on self, love, without any worry, anxiety, overwhelmed state about an outcome that hasn't happened. Now that changes the flow, the energy, because it takes you above courage. Courage is a very important quality to possess because courage raises you above anxiety, fear, and doubt. But you don't have to have courage to own a business, require business skills, or you don't have to have courage to sit on a park bench and enjoy life. You require courage to overcome. But you don't require courage in daily life. You'll have that when you have obstacles. But most of society resides in low levels of emotional energy called anxiety, fear, and doubt. And that's what I assist people to understand, how to separate their feelings from the events that shape them.
Right. And that's one thing that you have really assisted me with because you saw me completely at rock bottom, which, as I agree, rock bottom is an overrated place to be. But you saw me at rock bottom.
But you were in a transitional place of rock bottom. You were not a victim. You'd been victimized. So you were in a financial state of early recovery. So I want to make sure that I did see you at rock bottom, but you were also in the transition.
Correct. That is true. I was 2 years into my divorce case and I required and deserved somebody like you to tell me very clear and directly to coach me through it because I was so tired. Where we get to a point where I'm so fucking done with this.
Yes.
Like it just required that. I'm just done with it. And so through what you were saying, like through self was, being at rock bottom, starting over, bought the house, bought the car, still wasn't happy.
There.
You did. You saw. I was so proud to show you my house.
I walked you through the Vietnam War there. That was another breakthrough.
Yes.
Remember that?
Oh, many breakthroughs. We could have a whole hour just on me.
That house was really cool, though. That wasn't a start over house. That was you'd earned it.
Right.
Now that was a shiny object for you. And
Absolutely.
But it still was that. Okay, so in energy, that was a sense of pride and dignity. It's like you elevated yourself. Like you had thought that if I have this, now I'm enough.
Exactly.
While you're still in a relationship that's dysfunctional, I've done that. As a recovering addict, I've been through challenges in my own relationships, not really knowing how codependent I have been. So I have like 10 cars, a museum that I never go in. I understand this, but at almost 63 years young, those things don't have the same significance to me anymore.
Absolutely.
Like health, relationships, it's a whole different meaning.
Right. It's absolutely true. So you saw me in that phase, still wasn't good enough, went to another house, another car, but it was truly when I valued myself and learned to love myself. And then now, when I could still have it, I don't even want it.
I know exactly what you mean.
And it's the best place to be in because it is exactly what we value, the relationships and the health. Where's the emotion? I see the emotion.
Mine?
Yes.
I'm still have that pain, that residual pain of just all the things I went through to get what I thought would make me happy, and it didn't.
And you let it go.
Letting go is a skill and it's a process. So passion and pain are similar. So there's pleasure and pain. So we seek pleasure and we attempt to use pleasure to mask pain. Now, pain is from trauma, molestations, abandonments, rejections, neglect. It's a whole series of events that create a compounded effect. So what a superstar producer will do is they'll use production as a way to overcome their pain. So if I could just produce a little more and produce a little more and produce, so it becomes, you become like that kind of personality becomes a rock star at over obligating himself. And what typically happens is they over obligate themselves into a box where there's no more time to enjoy joy. I'm in recovery of that.
Well, and it's be productive when I produce. So when I can relax in my relaxed time. And I'm still learning that. But I can relax and not feel guilty about it.
Exactly.
And that's another breakthrough that you have assisted me with and that you assist your clients with. So the science of attraction, that's something that people will ask me, how do you always get that front place parking space? How do you have these people show up in your inbox? How did you start the Brigitte Bartley Show? How did you do it? And I understand the science of attraction behind it. And sometimes it's just, I don't know. But for people who talk about that energy and that space, how would you explain that to someone who's new to the mindset?
I assisted you with the parking space. So what we're talking about is expectation. So with me, I go to the Beverly Hills Hotel, the pink structure on Sunset, with my fiance, and I'm sitting in the Marilyn Monroe booth. I go to Santa Monica Boulevard, and I eat at a place called Guido's, and I'm sitting in the Frank Sinatra booth. I mean, this always happens to me. I sit in 2B, usually when I fly first class. So these situations happen to me. So there's some of that's innate, and then there's also understanding alignment. So to really move into that state of energy, so luck is when opportunity meets preparation, but there's a lot more to it than luck. So I have been very lucky in some situations. I've also been very skilled. So to understand energy is to understand there's 4 real components of energy. So there's anxiety, fear, and doubt. These are the lowest levels of energy. Then once you move into a state called courage, you're separating yourself from doubt. That moves your emotional energy. So like you and I are sitting here at a very high level of energy. That's why I'm crying. Because it's like, I remembered every AA meeting that I'd ever been to while I was sitting here talking to you, and I'm just remembered the camaraderie that I feel with you, because I remembered when I saw you in bell bottoms with a $100 bill and 3 kids. So that brings back empathic feelings of my own pain connected to you, of what I went through to get there. So that connects us. So that means so you and I in the studio, we're in about 500 cycles a second. So there's these people over here. I can see them, but I'm just like right here. Right. And while we're here, we're manifesting money and other things are happening to us that we don't have to understand because we know it. Now, the average person doesn't put the effort in to understand this because it's not that difficult, but average people stay average because they are unable to let go of their analytical, egoic mind that has to know, how do I? And it doesn't make sense. So to move beyond that means you move into a space of reflexes where you're no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. So if you were traumatized as a child and you were beat on the back of your legs and you were asked to go get the switch off the tree that you were supposed to get, there's a high probability you're going to develop an allergy on the way to the tree called hay fever. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with the pollen that's in the air. It has everything to do with the way your body reacts to the stimulus of this tree, the grass, and everything around it. And so this will create repressed feelings, stopped up feelings. This will create headaches and other situations that become mind-body connections. Now, in understanding energy, it's imperative that you understand that there's a series of emotions. The basic ones are anger, hate, resentment, guilt and shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, and apathy. So there's other emotions, but those are the main ones. That's what comprises anxiety. Fear and anxiety are not the same energy. Fear is a higher level of anxiety, and it's a faster situation. It goes like the body flexes and flinches and then relaxes in it. Anxiety becomes an addiction. Fear is not an emotion. Fear is a feeling. I'm feeling fearful. It's a misused word. Doubt is the place where most of society lives, because you can have a foot on the boat and a foot on the dock, and you can fear success and fear failure. So that's how most people operate. And then in this kind of energy, you'll attract your reality frequently, the same situation over and over to fulfill the feelings that you become emotionally addicted to. And then you go, I don't know why I do this. That's suppression. That's the suppressed feelings. Now, if we could bring a machine in here and calibrate the energy. So the energy in here is high. So the people in here, we're above 300 cycles a second. That means we're transmuting a set of feelings because you and I are the catalyst of this. And then the setting is so beautiful in here that it creates an opportune moment. So we're in the 300s here. Now we can go out there and you and I can stay in the 300 cycles a second because you and I have conditioned ourselves. But many people could walk out there and go, oh my God, did you see the trash there? Or they'll find a flaw instead of seeing the beauty. Now that's the body reacting to the stimulus. But a conditioned body-brain-mind connection doesn't see that. We walk downstairs, we go outside, it's Friday, and we see the opulence and the beauty of life instead of going, oh my God. So to separate yourself from the events that shape the feelings is a skill. That's so that the affirmation is I'm no longer the mind-body connection to the events that create, and then you fill in the blank, and I cover that in great detail in this book of how to separate those feelings. It is a skill set. It's not like Nike, just do it. It's not the red swoosh on the shoe. It's the skill set to take a longer breath cycle, separate your feelings from the events, and stay here and stay now without being outside of yourself, worried about situations that haven't happened.
Right. So one of the things in helping me get to that point, and people don't really understand, I think sometimes, is it's a process. It's definitely a process, and you help me to embrace that journey of the process. But meditation helped me greatly, as well as affirmations and visualization. And part of our coaching, and again, I'm talking in a short amount of time of 6 years of coaching, just our coaching calls, but then we've had so many calls in between and events as well.
Dinners, mentoring, friendship.
And the meditations, how you taught me about the brainwave states and getting into the brainwave state and learning about the brain chemistry and the serotonin, the dopamine, the cortisol, all of that. I mean, you planted the seeds and it just sparked an interest. But for me, the affirmations, the I am affirmations, the meditations, the visualizations, that's what helped me to see things the way I see things.
Well, one of the situations that really became a breakthrough for you is you became a student of being a student. Mm-hmm. What most people are is they're a student, but they don't ever take being a student into being the student. So they'll stand back here and be studious. I read the book. Oh, I read that. I read the book Letting Go. But did you apply it?
Right.
Have you read it 400 times? Did you open chapter 2 in Letting Go and read the mechanism of letting go? And not just read it, but can you apply it? Because until you apply it, it's knowledge. But when you apply it, when you actually put it into application, that's a result.
Right.
Because until you separate your feelings from events, that's knowledge. Mm-hmm. Until you understand that I just relapsed and you can catch yourself in mid-moment, then your body will continue to run your brain. But once the body and brain become one with, now you're in source. Now we're talking God. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking infinite intelligence. Now we're talking quantum physics.
Field.
Right. Now you're in the quantum field. Now the parking space is there. The booth is there, and you ask the maitre d' if they can make chicken parmesan, and the chef comes out. And he goes, "Oh, of course." See, this becomes the alignment. This is how this all happens.
So, Jeffrey, how would you explain this? This is a question for me, but also other people have asked this. A couple of weeks ago, a group of us girls are going to dinner, and when I'm leaving my house, I could see, when I was pulling out of my driveway, I could see us at a chef's table and the chef owner bringing out champagne for the table. I could just see it. Never had that happen before, but it's almost...
I've had it happen thousands of times.
So as soon as we get there, so just to document so that I knew that I was not crazy, or I wrote it down, and then 30 minutes later we get to the restaurant. We sit down. Within 5 minutes, the chef brings champagne for the table for 6 of us girls. And so my question is, did I attract that, or did I see into the future?
It would be both. So here's what that means. It means the brain operates as a transmitter and a receiver. So a few people have the ability, or it's innate with a few, and also it can be created. Now, what you just said happened. It's happened to me in the thousands of times.
Right.
So it's like the brain sees it and gives it meaning, but this only happens in a relaxed state because the brain also remembers events and then gives that meaning. So if you give meaning to rejection, you're going to get rejected over and over until you can separate your feelings from those events. So what you did is called synchronicity. Now, this is another explained, it's called a phenomenon, phenomenal, but there's also science to it. So you pick the telephone up to call your grandmother, and occasionally she picks the phone up. So that's also called a meaningful coincidence. But in reality, that is synchronicity. Now, Carl Jung wrote about this in the 1920s. Hopke wrote a book on it, or There Are No Accidents. I have at least 30 books on this topic. God Winks is another one. Now, I don't only understand it, I live it. It happens to me all the time. I go to St. Louis to a restaurant called Tony's, one of my favorite restaurants. A guy walks by in a suit. I said, "Excuse me, are you the maitre d'?" He goes, "No, I'm the owner." I go, "What's your name?" He goes, "Jim Bomarito." I go, "Are you the son of Tony?" He goes, "Yes, that's me." I said, "Would you happen to know a guy named Michael Garozzo?" He goes, "Oh, I know Michael and Sam." Well, Michael's one of my best friends. He owns 5 restaurants in Kansas City. I go, "Mr. Bomarito, would it be possible for you to have one of your waiters make dessert zabaione for my young friend Alec?" He goes, "I'll make it for you." So he makes the dessert. Now, this is a dessert that takes about 15 minutes. I mean, this isn't something you just go into the back kitchen. So he makes it tableside. I film it. He explains it. And then we get up to leave. He picks the check up, $178 tab. Now, that happens to me more frequently than anyone in the world probably. I mean, this just happens frequently. I have a guy that I bought about $250,000 worth of estate jewelry. He picked my check up at least 10 times. Now, I'm not looking for this to happen. This is alignment. So it means when you see a picture in the future in a relaxed body, and then you move into a state of consciousness called no, it's already happened. The rest is academic unless you get in the way. Now, if you get in the way and go, "Was that an imagined thought? Is this real? What if this doesn't happen?" I can embarrass myself. "Oh, I'm a Christian. Am I playing with tricks?" I mean, once you start doing this, you've just destroyed the moment.
Exactly.
So when you can accept, and see, a major component of recovery is acceptance. When you can accept every transgression you did, I sold drugs, I went to jail, all these things happened to me, I created the outcome, I can accept it. Then you move into forgiveness. Now this raises your energy. Then you move into the action phase of recreation. You move into reinventing yourself, and you put these 3 together. That changes the energy and moves you into 300 cycles a second, where you're now transmuting from love, passion, joy, and you're not looking over your shoulder and go, "Oh, wow, I fucked up when I was 15. What are people going to think of me? I hope they don't find out what I did. I hope they don't find out that I was a drug dealer from an all-American family of Barbie and Ken." And so when you're transmuting that, now you're going to find someone to go, "You know, I looked you up, and I found out you used to be a drug dealer." And you go, "Oh, my God, now my life's..." See, the very situation you seek to avoid, you attract to fulfill your feelings of low self-esteem.
That's very true. Well, and you've heard me speak at many of your events where I've spoken of situations and things that I was not proud of, but it's just owning it. And, people have asked, would you change anything different? Would you go back? And I wouldn't do anything different.
Well, you couldn't.
I don't, okay, I couldn't.
You couldn't, but
You're right.
it's not normal, but it's conditional to want to change the past.
Right.
And this is why so many people go, "I'm not where I should be." And I go, "Where should you be?"
Right.
Well, I should be much further ahead. Why? You haven't paid the price. You're still paying the pain of regret.
Right.
When you hold on to regret, you cannot possibly live the life that you're seeking to create. And besides that, most people, this life they think they want, they're only really half in it. So that means they're in doubt. So they have this foot over here in this life I want, but they have this foot in the past saying, "I had a good childhood. I'm not willing to look at my parents. I'm not willing to look at what really happened because I have so much shame that I can't really look at that."
Right.
So guilt and shame are 2 different distinctions. So guilt is typically what someone did to control you. Shame is what either happened to you or you did yourself that you have so much regret about that you don't want anyone to know about it. So that typically, 60% of my clients have been molested, traumatized sexually, abused. I mean, for the people who really understand what's going on with child trafficking and all these things, this isn't surprising to when you start to really understand. And you move into that world, I mean, that's a whole nother level of energy. You have to be prepared to understand the truth. And most people I'm on a rant. Most people don't want to understand that truth because that would take them out of their normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of truths, and I know we get into this discussion at your events, which you're hosting tomorrow here in Greenville at the Embassy Suites, and we talk about at your client-only events in California, but the truths of, and we won't go down this rabbit trail because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but, with the vaccines and the big pharma and what's happening, like at the Denver airport, all those type of things, the conspiracies, the chemtrails.
I've been studying it for 30 years, but I don't overwhelm myself with it.
Right.
I mean, I'm aware of what I perceive to be my truth.
Right.
So I can watch it, but I focus. I mean, I'm a conservative American, so I mean, things bother me, but I don't let it bother me so much that I can't enjoy my life, because I still believe that America is the land of the free, that we the people will rise to the occasion and do what we the people should do, whatever that means. And I'm not suggesting we pick up a rifle, but I'm suggesting that we have some social awareness, and we the people who have this level of consciousness come together, and we create results in free enterprise, and we create jobs, and we create opportunities for people, and we teach people how to let go of the cause that creates the effect that keeps them in a very low energy called doubt.
Well, and one of the things that you also helped me with tremendously is how money works. And that is something that I am finding that not many people are aware of with the banking industry, with the IRS, the student loan, what's happening with that. And you and I talk about this, but people don't even understand how money works and how money doesn't even exist.
The laws that govern money, numismatic law,
Right.
being a numisticist. So that's one of my niches, as I assist people to understand just basics with a piece of paper and a pen. The average American doesn't understand their mortgage, their school loan debt. They don't run a spreadsheet. They have no idea what they spend. They have no idea where they are. What they know is they require something new to fulfill their low self-confidence. So they'll go out and buy something on money that doesn't exist, pay interest on it for some instant gratification so they can feel good, not really even owning most of what it is. And then you drive by their house, and they've got a $100,000 Porsche there sitting outside because they can't get it in the garage. And that Porsche isn't paid off, the house isn't paid off, and the shit that's in the garage they don't even use.
So how would you explain, because you talk about the garage and how people can't even get their car in the garage. How would you translate that?
It means that they're so overwhelmed being overwhelmed that they have no discipline, they have no self-esteem, they have no method, no system to live. So they just keep putting things on top of things. And so the energy that typically drives that is codependence, and then the addiction oftentimes is overwhelmed, and they can't let go. So they have a baby stroller, and they might be able to sell it someday, or they have Michael will like this. They have Marantz turntable from the late 70s with a Stanton cartridge on it that they might use one day, or they have this that they're going to sell. They have these clothes that they can't wear, but they might fit into them, even though they're out of date.
Right. The last time that you spoke in Spartanburg, you gave us a call to action for the people who had stuff in their garage was to clean it out and have 10 bags. Clean out 10 bags in your car. So that's a call to action for those watching.
I asked those who could commit.
Yes. So that'll be a good follow-up for tomorrow to see if any.
The probability of anyone actually doing it more than one day would be slim and none. None wrote out, and slim is mounting up. So because the average American cannot follow through on a new condition because they relapse back into familiar behaviors.
So we talk about that even with food and nutrition because people are so conditioned to their past behaviors. Why do you feel like it's so challenging for people? Like you use the analogy of the foot on the boat, the foot on the dock. Why do you feel like people are so scared to be successful? Like what's the fear of success? What's the fear of being healthy? The fear of moving forward? Okay,
so it's a complex answer, and I'll break it down. So the fear of success is really, am I good enough? Can I be responsible? And then success will contradict averageness. So, but the main anxiety that's created, even though the right brain, which is back here, it's not really, it's back, the right brain goes, yes, yes, yes. the left brain, which is the dominant part of the brain, the neocortex of the brain, and then the reptilian brain that's underneath it that sees the lions and tigers said, oh, that will take a lot of work. Oh my God. I don't know if I can give up vodka. I don't know if I can give up this. I don't know if I can't go to an AA meeting. Someone might find out. I don't know if I can go on a diet. I don't know if so what the brain does, it goes into a state of what if. So when you're conditioned to be in doubt and find flaws and be anxious and be overwhelmed, like a large percent of society is, your body's going to run your brain and you're going to relapse before you even get there. Mm-hmm. So this is why you can have one good day, and then that one good day actually creates fear. Because that's the ghost in the machine that says, I'm not sure if I can hold this. I'm not sure if I can keep this 2 days in a row. So an addict talks like an addict talks. An addict talks in riddles. An addict stops and starts. An addict starts a sentence and goes down a rabbit hole. Because an addict is overwhelmed. They can't finish a freaking sentence. They can't put 5 to 15 words together that end with a period or a question mark. Even America says, I guess mid-sentence. They say the word guess, like mid-sentence. I mean, I've counted how many times someone will say guess in an hour, like 50, 60 times. They'll say need to, which is a future tense term with no commitment. And Americans even say, I don't know at the end of a sentence or in the middle of a sentence. So by saying I don't know, it means there's no certainty. So this is the way they communicate, so there's no commitment. Now their mouth says, I fear failure, but really what they have anxiety about is being sober one day at a time emotionally, because they're not sure if they can be or do that.
And that's one thing, too, I want people to understand is sobriety and addictions are not just with drugs and alcohol. I think sometimes people feel like the addictions just come with drugs and alcohol and substances and pills, but it's an emotional state that many of us are addicted to.
I'm always worried. I worry all the time. I'm always overwhelmed. I mean, so when the word always is in front of it, when you put the word always in front of a word that represents anxiety, that's your identity.
That is true.
Always. Now, when you put the word always, I'm always letting go, in front of recovery, sobriety, and consciousness, now you're in a different state of always. I always find the parking space. It always works out for me. I always attract great people. Now, there's more to it than the words. Right. So, because underneath the words is a word called belief. So there's dis, meaning not, which is anxiety, fear, and doubt. And then there's belief, which means certainty. So when you live in certainty, now you know. So the words that represent consciousness, recovery, and sobriety are I know, I am, especially I am in that state. I know, I'm aware, I understand, and I trust. Now these words raise your emotional energy and separate you from anxiety, fear, and doubt. So that when I go home, someone's going to want to hire me. When I go back to my room, I'm going to have a message that said, I watched your show. And so then that money will move right there in a place called ease. It wasn't always like that, although money has been relatively an easy situation for me. I'm very creative and innovative. However, I also had eras of my life where I'd hit rock bottom, and then I'd become addicted to the rise to the top. I'd find a dysfunctional relationship and then have that take me out of my flow and then overcome it. Or I'd find some other Herculean act of courage that I would have to create to overcome a very situation that I started. So I could get that cardio cocktail, that adrenaline,
the dopamine.
The spike of adrenaline, dopamine, and cortisol all in one drink. So remind me of Stolichnaya.
What'd you call it? What kind of cocktail?
Cardio cocktail.
I'm gonna remember that one.
Cardio cocktail. So it's a combination of dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol that all come together to give you that low high. Now, do I go down the pharmaceutical industry?
Yes.
Recreates this with a series of methamphetamines, barbiturates, depressants, and all these other things that they use. So just recently I spoke to a gentleman who was on 4 different medications, Zoloft, Paxil, and Adderall. I don't remember the 4th one, but this guy did not think he was an addict. Now, being a former methamphetamine addict, cocaine addict, heroin addict, barbiturate addict, and alcoholic, I mean, that's just the pharmaceutical industry. His doctor and his therapist have colluded to have this guy on 4 medications. Now, here's what he says. I can never go to sleep. My brain is always running. So now, naturally, or this guy doesn't have the money to hire me because this is how he operates, yet he makes a 6-figure income.
Wow.
But see, this because hiring me would be a contradiction.
Right.
His brain says, "Oh no, I'm not hiring that dude. I got to go talk to my therapist and my doctor, and I got to stay on these 4 medications so I can have a fake personality." Now, what he doesn't understand is the tolerance that the combination of any of these drugs, and what most of the American populace doesn't understand, that being emotionally addicted to a set of feelings creates an emotional tolerance. So if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, and you've been overwhelmed and unorganized a large percent of your life, and I have one of my best students right here in the audience. Now, hardly anyone, I mean like 1% of 1%, because the most challenging addiction to overcome is being unorganized and overwhelmed. Right there is Rhonda Lee. She's sitting in the audience here. Rhonda drove all the way from Knoxville because she's friends with you and me. I have told her this numerous times this last year. I said, Rhonda, nobody does what you do. I mean, just nobody breaks the addiction to being unorganized. They just don't do it. Here's why. Here's why it's the most difficult addiction to address. Okay, so heroin's right there. Okay, so that's H, that's horse, that's heroin. That comes from poppy. Oh, there's alcohol. That's stolichnaya. That comes from Russia. That's vodka. There's bourbon. Okay, there's that pill, this pill. That's right in front of you. So you can isolate that. When you're overwhelmed, that's everywhere. When you're unorganized, it's everywhere. It's in your drawers. It's in your closet. It's in your taxes. It's at the desk at your job. It's in your garage. You're late for everything. You miss tax payments. You get behind. It's stacked up in mail. You come in and you kick a shoe off there, a shoe off there. You can't find your car keys. You're late. You're chronically late. You're always behind. You're always overwhelmed. You are a freaking wreck, dude. That's what unorganized is. Right, Rhonda?
So, Jeffrey, you are the author of 5 best-selling books. You've actually written a lot of books, but 5 of them were bestsellers. Are you going to have those books available tomorrow at the Greenville event?
I will. I will have the 5 books in limited supply. I'll bring a few. I brought a few of them. They can also buy them on my website. This is the most recent.
That's what I was going to ask you. And so what can we expect with the Breakthrough Factor, which that's a nice cover. Like the cover.
Well, this book is a book I haven't even started to market yet. It was written in 2017 and then completed in 2018. My friend T.C. Bradley assisted me to take it to bestseller on Amazon for 2 days in 2 different categories. So this is really a lot of the content that I've put together about letting go, separating feelings from events, emotional addictions, cause and effect, why you do what you do. It is by far my best book. It's not my bestseller. My bestseller is a book called The Procrastination Cure. It became a minor bestseller, never reached the top 100 list, but is in 4 languages, and for about 6 years was in every Barnes & Noble in the United States. Career Press bought the rights to that. I sold it to them for a small fee. I get a small royalty check twice a year. That's my bestseller, Procrastination Cure. But this book is the book that I feel the best about. Now I'm going to bring in, my next book is going to be called The Addiction Factor, where I will really isolate cause and effect, how to separate your feelings from the events, and really the whole process of letting go. So if anyone comes to the event tomorrow, then in this local area, I consider myself one of the world's greatest experts on letting go. I'm a self-proclaimed expert on it. I've spent years perfecting techniques to assist people to understand that there is a mechanism to it, there is a skill set, and if practiced, there will be dividends and results from it. But it's not something you can, how do I? There's an actualization that I will cover in a very, very relaxed forum tomorrow in a 3-step process, because there's a timeline, there's events, and then there's the application. And once you can put these 3 components together, letting go can become an always.
Well, and letting go was also another thing that you assisted me with, but letting go of the events, letting go of the feelings, letting go of people, letting go of relationships. The biggest thing was letting go of the outcome.
Right. So that's the attachment that most people don't understand. One of the greatest chapters ever written is not really a personal development book, but it's a addiction book called Codependent No More. Melody Beattie, who if you ever, she doesn't, there's no videos on her, but I've listened to a lot of her recordings. She wrote the groundbreaking book in the early 80s called Codependent No More, and then the follow-up products called Beyond Codependent. Now, chapter 5 breaks down what detachment means. Where in detaching, you've let go of any outcome, yet you can create outcomes without an attachment. Knowing that the outcome will happen, whether it's now or later, you're comfortable enough in yourself that the outcome will happen. It may not be the exact outcome, but you're outcome conscious without being outcome connected.
And so for the books, if people are not in the Greenville area, because I know we have people watching from all over the United States, how can they get their hands on those books?
goldenmastermind.com is my website. Now, golden comes from a Napoleon Hill term, Golden Rule Industries of America. Mastermind also comes from Think and Grow Rich. Mastermind Alliance, goldenmastermind.com.
Nice.
So you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Napoleon Hill there's a book written on Hill called A Lifetime of Riches. Hill actually lost the contract to the book Think and Grow Rich early in the publication of that book. He lost all the rights to it. He had a company called Golden Rule Industries of America. I always saw myself starting a company with that golden ruler in your hand. So Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated is the name of my corporation, goldenmastermind.com. Is where you can find that, and then there's a menu button. It says books. You can order all the books right there.
Nice. And then for our event tomorrow, which is in Greenville, South Carolina, tickets are available at goldenmastermind.com. They're also available on Instagram. On my personal Instagram, I have a private link, or not a private link, but I have a link in my bio that they can get tickets or they can pay at the door. But your signature thing is your one-on-one coaching.
Right.
And so I know that sometimes, which today for the audience, you were offering a 20-minute coaching.
I do.
How can we do that?
I offer a 20-minute free coaching session, provided you have some level of interest. I don't offer a 20-minute coaching session to everyone because I'm a nice guy. I'm
Right.
a business owner, so if you have any level of interest, no obligation, if you have any level of interest in finding out more about my coaching, you can contact me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. My email is jeff@goldenmastermind.com. So Instagram, Facebook fan pages. I have a new Facebook group called Sobriety Consciousness that just hit the 1,000 mark today, so you can find me there. I'm very easy to find. It's JEFF with an E before the R, ERY, Combs. Easy to find.
Well, and another thing, too, is not only have you assisted me with the emotional addictions, the past events and everything, but that in turn affected my business and my brand. And my business is my brand, which, one of your signature events, Protege, first is Breakthroughs of Success, then into Protege is where I've learned so much about the business model of social media, the algorithms, branding, all of that.
And you are crushing it. I mean, this is so awesome that this TV station found you and you found them, or whoever the production company is, and really has this forum for you to bring guests to the table because you have a true skill at being able to interview people.
Thank you. And sometimes people will ask, did you ever envision this happening? Like in business, did you ever envision you would do this? And you will say, yes, I did. I did envision it. With Isogenics or with my other businesses, I knew it would be successful because I envisioned it. I would have never envisioned a talk show. And I would have never envisioned you sitting on the other side as a guest.
Well, it's here, and I'm so honored to be a guest on your show. Your show is awesome, by the way. I mean, you've had great guests on this show already.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. So tomorrow, Jeffery Combs will be at the Embassy Suites in Greenville, South Carolina on Verde Boulevard. The event starts at 9 o'clock. Tickets are available in my Instagram bio, or you can click on any link that's on any social media post. Jeffery, in closing, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience today?
Actually, I want to ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Right. So you are one of my top students of all time. So I've coached 12,000 clients, 60,000 hours one-on-one. I've been a millionaire in 2 different businesses. I have traveled the world speaking. You would be in you're the top 1% of the people I coach. Rhonda would also be one of the top 1%ers. So, I mean, we're talking the law of the few, the LOF. Now, both you and Rhonda have come from challenging backgrounds. And Ray's over there. That's Ray's my assistant. I was telling Ray today how brilliant he is and how connected we are. And then Myra's here in the studio and Michael's here. But see, here's reality. Very few people will really put the effort forth to be that person they know they're capable. What was a significant time frame? Because there's not one, but what was that allowed you to do what hardly anyone else will do? When you had 3 kids, were going through a divorce, and had no money, living with your mother, what was that? Where was that resolve that allowed you to say, I'm better than this?
I just had this question 2 days ago, and it was truly because I knew that I deserved better. I was tired of the feelings of confusion, depression, resentment, bitterness, anger, and I just knew that there was something better. It was an intuitive feeling that I had, and I wanted to go through the process for me and for my kids because I wanted them to have the best mom that I felt like they deserved. And, everything that I've done in business and success was never to own anything, to be anything, recognition, status. That does not appeal to me. I have no desire to be famous. I just want to be the best person so that it can ripple effect into other people. Because when I first heard your story, when you connected me with clients who I heard their story, it inspired
Chicago, remember that?
I remember it was Chicago, May 2013.
Dinner?
I remember at an Italian restaurant. And because I heard other people's stories, I was inspired to do what I did. And there was a part of me that I didn't want to share, part of my story that I still don't want to share. But because I heard other people's story is what inspired me. So that's what inspires me to share my story. And letting go of what people think, letting go of the outcomes, which is, again, what you assisted me with, is if they don't like it, it's not about them, it's not about me, it's about the one person who wants to listen to it. So the turning point is I just instill, I know there's more. And I don't want to live inside the box.
You have transcended that space where the probabilities, where you're beyond possibility, you're into probability and definitive purpose. That's what very few people ever find, that definitive purpose, because they just wander. They're just out there looking, hoping that someone shows up to rescue them.
Well, and it's for me, it's not why, but why not? In summary of my breakthrough, my life, I feel like the last 7 years, and very short, was not learning who I was, but learning who I was not. Because for so many years, I was so told of what I was. And Michael and I were just having this conversation this morning of, I think I'm a bitch. I think I'm a bitch. Well, I think because so many people for so long told me they thought I was a bitch. So I just felt like
it's who I am.
It's who I am. When in reality, maybe that's not who I am.
Bridget, what happened to me was I was on my couch, or I was in my little apartment with my friend David Brennan. Now, David told a story about him and me in sobriety consciousness. And David was with me. Well, I'll backtrack. I took David to his first AA meeting in 1995. He called me from Lew Sterrett Jail, and he said, "Can you come bail me out?" And I said, "David, call your parents. I'm financially challenged, Chief." And he goes, "No, dude, you got to bail me out." He goes, "I can't. I'm too embarrassed to call my parents. I'm standing in line here in jail." I said, "David, I'll bail you out. I'll have to sell something. I'll come downtown and I'll bail you out. But you're going to an AA meeting." He goes, "Fuck that." I go, click, hung up on him. He got back in line about 2 hours later. He called me. He said, "Dude, you got to bail me out." I go, "David, I'm going to a speaker meeting tonight in Addison, Texas. And if you want me to bail you out, you're going to go to that meeting." David agreed, never drank again. David has 24 years of sobriety. At my lowest moment, David was living with me in California. I was $100,000 in credit card debt. And David watched me go through the next 2 years he was there with me when I went from $100,000 in credit card debt to a millionaire in 28 months. Now, everything I did before that allowed those 28 months to happen. It was the 10 years before that ever happened, and David is a part of that. So when I look back on, people in my life, David is that one guy that still contacts me, and those are the relationships that are much more important than money.
I absolutely agree. One of the biggest things that I feel like I can receive is when a client tells me thank you. So, thank you.
They're my privilege and honor. The tears, right?
It is.
Well, that's a combination of compassion, empathy, and then the pain of what you go through to be that person you know you can be.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, thank you for taking your afternoon, for traveling from California to South Carolina to be here live in Greenville, South Carolina. Thank you to Ray, Michael, Myra, Rhonda, for all being here today. You can see Jeffrey live tomorrow at Embassy Suites, Verde Boulevard in Greenville, South Carolina at 9 a.m. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
You have a great day.